Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to PEA News, Progressive Era Age News. I'm your news reporter, Emma Havlitz, and our topic today is how progressivism emerged in our society, why, which goal is the most accomplished, and why. Now, as you guys know, the Gilded Age slowly started creeping into America during the late 1800s. Which was caused by the Second Industrial Revolution. The Second Industrial Revolution caused mass production, many technological advancements, and a huge economic shift that directly led to the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age was great for America because it highlighted the good factors and the bad factors in America. The economy was growing, but so was corruption. So soon, reforms and protests against the inequalities of America emerged. It was the birth of a new era, the Progressive Era. The Progressive Era is a time for change. People want to improve working conditions, regulate businesses, ensure consumer protection, promote women's suffrage, labor rights, and many more. Many people believe that the women's suffrage movement has been the most successful, as it did result in the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote, and I agree. The women's rights movement advocated for women's voting and equal opportunities for women. Many women protested for what they believed in, and some women would even do anything to prove their point for fair voting rights. Women tried 3 different approaches to try and get voting rights. They tried to convince state legislators, which did work because a few states did approve this. They also brought the 14th Amendment to court because women believed that since they were citizens, it should be their natural right to be able to vote. But the court ruled that the 14th Amendment does not guarantee women the right to vote. And lastly, they protested for a new amendment to be added. It took about 75 years of protesting before the 19th Amendment was added and ratified to the United States Constitution in 1920. A key point in the women's rights movement was the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848. Women's activists met at the convention to discuss women's rights and equal rights for women. It was organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott and ultimately led to the 19th Amendment. The women's suffrage movement took a while before it obtained its goal, but was overall successful in achieving voting rights for women. Soon we will return with a news report on women's suffrage activist Susan B. Anthony, given by our news reporter, Jasmine Clemente.
Hello, today's news report will be about women's suffrage. After the Civil War, Susan B. Anthony, an American women's rights activist, demanded that women and African Americans should be granted the right to vote. As many of you know, the 14th Amendment, which was ratified in 1868, which was also 3 years after the end of the Civil War, guaranteed black men the right to vote, but women were still left. Because of this, suffrage advocates became even more inspired to push for the rights of women in politics. In 1869, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton founded the National Women's Suffrage Association, and soon after, Lucy Stone, Julia Ward Howe, and other activists formed the American Women's Suffrage Association. This led to the two groups combined, with Stanton as the overall president in the year of 1890. Overall, throughout the late 1800s and the early 1900s, women and their organizations strived for the right to vote, political equality, and social reforms, which have still had effects to this day. And since many were inspired by this, the amount of employed American women increased by about 5 million. Thankfully, they eventually gained the right to control earnings, property, divorce, and custody. Some of you may be wondering, what was their reason? Well, they argued that women deserved to vote not just because they should have the same rights as men, but because they were different from men and they could provide a different perspective to the country. Following this, in 1896, women started to finally gain the right to vote in 4 states, which were Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah. And starting in the 1900s, many areas in the U.S. were aiming to support suffrage and other issues in society. Finally, on August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, specifically saying, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex." And on November 2nd, 1920, more than 8 million women voted in elections for the first time. Now we will take a quick advertisement break, but we will quickly return shortly with an interview about a muckraker, Ida Tarbell.
Step into the future of photography with the new and revolutionary Kodak camera. Capture life's most memorable moments with a simple click of a button, no expertise required. This new lightweight and portable camera is the perfect size to bring to any adventure, coming with a handy leather case, becoming your new and ideal companion.
Unlike your past cameras, which use a glass plate negative for each exposure, the new Kodak provides extra ease with a convenient 100 exposure roll of flexible film for elevated photo quality. Once you've taken your memories on film, just send the camera back to Eastman Dry Plate and Film Company and have your prints made and ready for show for the price of $10, coming this summer for only $25.
Good morning, America. Today I'm here with the famous muckraker,
Ida Tarbell.
and I'll be interviewing her, asking her questions about her work and what she does. So, Ida, what is your beliefs and what's your background?
So I was born in Pennsylvania, and I devoted my whole entire life into being a muckraker and a journalist. I believe that exposing corruption, the abuse of power against those who work, and revealing the ugly truths about these corporations. I promote transparency and accountability for consumers.
Okay, what injustice are you focusing on in your recent work?
The injustices that I focus on are the practices of Rockefeller Standard Oil Company. This corporation is at the top of their game. They crush competition and they're ruthless. They manipulate and influence other markets that harm other businesses, consumers, and the American economy.
Wow, that's really great, Ida. How have you been gathering this information?
I gather my information through research, court records, reports, documents, and interviews that I am able to access.
I really enjoy that. What motivated you to do this, and what inspired you?
I'm inspired by my father, who was damaged by the Standard Oil Company because of their aggressive tactics, harm to honest, hardworking people. I'm driven to give a voice for those who are affected by greed from companies like the Standard Oil Company.
Wow, what challenges have you faced in this reporting?
I have faced many obstacles like skepticism from consumers, accessing information, and generally making a dent in this industry by exposing their wrongdoings.
So, are you planning on making any impacts or improvements in society with your work?
Yes, I plan to make the public aware and the impact of the government's policies in terms of regulating and trusting these large companies or monopolies, to restore fairness, protect small businesses, and to ensure consumer goods are reliable. In general, I believe that as an investigative journalist and muckraker, the public should be informed with the truth, justice, and fairness, especially in business and government. Here's a short summarization of my beliefs and what I want the public to be aware of, as well as preach for themselves. It's important to be anti-monopoly and understand fair business practices. The Standard Oil Company is unethical and illegal in much of their work. They do things that are ruthless and unforgiving towards the government. 2. You should support investigative journalism to help people like me conduct careful research, accurate documentation, and perform factual reporting to uncover corruption and inform the public of monopolists' wrongdoings. 3. A woman's role in society is limited, but with this professional involvement, we can make a change and give women more rights and offer them to be taken more seriously in society. And lastly, understand the moral obligations in capitalism. The business leaders have a moral duty to the public, but since they actively betray that and their workers, it's important to persist for ethical behavior. Thank you, reporter.
Now on to today's segment. The Pullman strikes at the Pullman Train Car Company are on strike because of wage cuts and rent. Corporations have refused to help, which is causing increased risks for railroad and mail delivery.
The government has sent troops to end the strike, but resulted in arrests and violence. The strike has proven that factories don't care enough to give their workers fair treatment and how hard it is for workers to be heard.
And now for our analytical commentary reported by Jasmine
And Emma.
So our topic today involves with former President Theodore Roosevelt, and an important question that has probably been on many Americans' minds at the time is, who has been the most progressive U.S. president? In my opinion, I think it's Theodore Roosevelt. What do you think, Emma?
I agree, especially since he became president while industrialization was on the rise. I feel like he had a lot to solve for the nation. After the Civil War and into the 1900s, America had transformed drastically in terms of economics and society.
And because of the increased amount of factories and other workplaces across the country, the laboring class was in shambles. There was so much child labor, low wages, and really hazardous conditions that was only benefiting business. These workers were in danger.
To help improve these conditions, Roosevelt pushed for reforms. For example, his Square Deal aimed for fairness in labor, business, and consumer protection, and also supported labor unions.
This was one way Roosevelt was progressive, and he didn't only just help out workers, but the entire U.S. population as a whole through the health and food regulations. The Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 exposed mislabeled and adulterated food. Even the Bureau of Chemistry had to inspect products and make sure everything was safe to consume by the public.
President Roosevelt signed this into law on June 30th, 1906. This marked a turning point in public safety and regulation. He was able to denounce powerful companies for the safety of citizens. And lastly, another issue he addressed was nature and the environment. Roosevelt was a big supporter of conserving the environment as he was an outdoorsman and loved to travel.
There are many problems such as leveled forests, plowed prairies, trash being dumped into nature, and land filled up by buildings and corporations. To help solve this, he appointed Gifford Pinchot as the head of U.S. Forest Service to assist.
And together, they formulated wildlife refuges, national parks, and bird sanctuaries. As you can see, Teddy Roosevelt was a president who brought much change to the United States, even when it was going through rough times. Thank you for tuning into PEA News, Progressive Era Age News, and we hope you enjoyed our program today and learned all about the Progressive Era.
That's all for tonight. We have more to talk about tomorrow, and we hope you tune in.